私の名前はパポロダポリスです。私は誇り高き主婦として生きています。勤勉な妻をサポートするために毎日家の周りで家事をしてます。お皿を洗ったり、掃除機をかけたり、洗濯物をきれいにしたり、そのほらたくさんのことします。きっと私の妻は私にもっとビデオゲームを買わせてくれるでしょう。私は弟子であることを誇りに思います。極主婦道。Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Manga of the Week and also a little mini 50 subscriber celebration. I hit 50 subscribers this past week and I really want to express my appreciation to everybody. All of y'all really keep me going and make me want to put more and more effort into my projects that I'm doing for this channel. I should hopefully have that new series out this week if I can just get my stinking lighting equipment to come in and it not be terrible quality, because I've already had to send one back and that was really disappointing and of course set me back. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys. 50 subscribers may not sound like a lot, but it's a lot to me, and so I really want to keep this going and growing and do more and better things. So thank y'all for that. And as you could probably tell, this week's manga of the week is The Way of the Househusband, or Gokushufudo. Gokushufudo. There we go. This manga is a delightfully misleading foray into humor and slice of life genres. It is about an ex-yakuza, previously known as the Immortal Tatsu, and who, after being saved by his wife Miku, marries her and decides to become a full-time house husband. That meaning he doesn't work, he stays at the house, he does all of the chores and the cooking and the planning and the grocery shopping and all of that stuff. But because of his fully yakuza past, he does this with a bit of, let's say, aggression about everything. He uses very misleading terms, all of which make him sound like he's still in the gang and all of that, and it just makes for this wonderful humor that you're not really gonna find in a lot of other things. This manga is laid out in a series of kind of one-shot-ish chapters. Some of them continue over 2 or 3, but mostly it is very slice of life, where you just see bits and pieces in a continuous timeline. And slowly, of course, throughout it, they add more and more characters and flesh Tatsu and Miku out a little bit more, and just you really feel like you are watching a new chapter in someone's life unfold, albeit a very funny chapter. Now, many of you know that this one does have an anime adaptation, but because of my own personal gripes with it and the amount of time it would take to explain those in detail, I'm solely going to stick to the manga. This recommendation is only about the manga. I don't really recommend the anime. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Story, I'm giving a 6 out of 10. This one doesn't really have any continuing story to latch onto. As I mentioned, it's a bunch of kind of one-shot or two-shot-ish chapters that are on a continuing timeline but don't all really interconnect outside of the character development and such. So as you go through it, you do watch them learn and grow a little bit, but because this is mainly focused around comedy, you don't get a whole lot of, I guess we'll go with meaningful character development. But that doesn't really make for a bad story because this is a slice of life humor. It knows what it's supposed to be doing. It knows what it is. It's not some epic fantasy tale or anything like that. I'm actually just giving the story a 6 out of 10 because I feel like it's a 6 out of 10, not because I'm docking points for it not being an actual story, if that makes any sense. Characters, I'm giving an 8.5 out of 10. The characters are very, very memorable, very well designed. Tatsu is very distinctive, and the artist has a very masterful way of portraying his sort of disconnect between what he used to be in the Yakuza and what he is now as a house husband. He tackles things from a very misled standpoint, and it's not that he's bad at them. He's very good at the chores and the cooking and the shopping and all of that stuff, but the way he goes about it is not like most people. And you'll see some examples of that in the images I show from the manga. And his wife Miku is a very strong and loving wife. She wants the best for Tatsu. She very much cares about him. She knows what he was in the past and knows what he does now in order to provide for her as much as she provides for him with working, and they just work together very well as a very nice example of a married couple that you don't necessarily see a whole lot in manga unless you're really searching for that kind of thing. The side characters that jump in are very fun, and the mangaka does a really good job of introducing them and making them just kind of blend really seamlessly into a slice of life, which in my opinion is actually quite difficult to do, because if you're already invested in the slice of life and there was no pre-indication of these characters coming in or being a thing, it's kind of hard to get them in there and make it feel natural, and yet somehow this guy does it, and it's really good. So the characters are probably the highest score that this manga will get, but I digress. Moving on. The art, I'm giving an 8 out of 10. The art for this is very striking. The mangaka utilizes very dramatic angles and hyper exaggerated expressions in order to portray Tatsu's overly passionate endeavors whenever he does his chores and all of that stuff. All of that, in addition to that, all of the extreme screen tones and stuff like that convey a very misleading example of the world that they live in, and that is part of the humor of it, because you get all of those over everything, and then the author switches and shows what's actually happening, and it's all very normal. You know, he's not cutting lines of cocaine, he's buying flour, he's not trying to, you know, stab through someone's stomach or something, he's just cutting up chicken or whatever. It's hard to explain it without really reading it, but I'm trying to do my best to explain it here. Setting, I'm giving a 7.5 out of 10. This manga takes place over many different shopping districts, houses, apartments, stuff like that. Very normal places, but the mangaka goes to very good lengths to ensure that these places are well drawn, consistent, have good characters in them, and really makes the world feel alive, which, because it is a comedy manga focused around specific characters, they didn't necessarily have to go that far to make the world feel real, but because they do, it just adds to the whole thing. I don't really know how they do it, but they just do. That's not a very good way to make my opinion seem valid, but I mean, it's just the way that it is. Emotional impact, I'm giving a 4 out of 10. Now, that is to say, this manga isn't really about hard emotions. It's a humor manga, it's a comedy manga, and while it has slice of life, they don't really tackle anything super hard, and so it's not very emotional. Now, if you were just going off of like gut bust factor, it's a 10 out of 10. You're almost guaranteed any chapter to crack a smile at least, if not laugh out loud. Now, my humor is weird, but probably y'all's is too if you're watching this. Very logical. Lastly, we have the Ludometer. This manga is a very solid 1 out of 10 on the Ludometer. It's not lewd. It's not about lewdness. It doesn't have fan service. It's not about that. Now, it's got some language in it and some drug references and violence references, or even violence itself sometimes, but that's not lewd. That's just there, and it's part of the humor actually too. So yeah, as far as I can remember, there is no lewdness whatsoever. So 1 out of 10 or even 0 out of 10 on the Ludometer if you want to go that far. It's not lewd. No lewd. All that is to say, to conclude, I'm giving this a very mid 5 out of 10. Don't let that dissuade you though, because I rate this really highly in terms of stuff you should read because the comedy and presentation is so good. In the midst of all the other stuff I've recommended, which a lot of it has emotional aspects to it and stuff like that, it's good to just have this or some other thing that's just a comedy, straight comedy, to come back to, because you just need that. You need that relief from hard emotions. Everybody does. Nobody wants to think about hard things all the time. Yeah, it's a really fun read. There's less than 100 chapters right now. I think they're on like 89 or 92 or something like that. The chapters themselves range from anywhere from like 7 pages to sometimes double that, like 18 or 19, something like that. And it's good, and you don't have to read it all at once. You just kind of come back to it when you really want a little splash of humor. And it's weird to me to make a video on something like this because there's stuff that I want to explain more, but that would ruin it. And so I just kind of have to drop it. So I'm gonna drop it. I hope you read it. And I hope you have a great week. And I hope that my new series will come out this week like I want it to. But that depends on Amazon right now. And me, because I have to iron my green screen. So I'm probably gonna go do that right now. So I'll see y'all next week, if I don't see you again this week. Thank you for 50 subscribers. Thank you for the comments and the likes and the support and the suggestions and all of that. I really, really do appreciate it. Yeah, let's have a good week. See y'all later.